The coastal town of Maple Bay was a postcard come to life. Quiet streets lined with maple trees, sea breeze carrying the scent of salt and hope, and a sky that blushed gold at sunset. People here knew each other by name, waved across porches, and believed life's biggest dreams were made of simple joys. Among them lived Ethan Gray, a soft-spoken carpenter with calloused hands and kind eyes. He rented a small cottage near the docks, worked on furniture for the local cafe, and spent evenings walking by the shore, lost in thought. But Ethan carried a secret larger than the ocean he walked beside. His real name was Ethan Cole, billionaire CEO of Tech Innovations, a global tech empire known across the United States. He was a man of boardrooms and private jets, of Forbes lists and media attention. But the more success he earned, the lonelier his heart became. Because every woman he dated saw his fortune before his face, his status before his soul. So one day, tired of masks and meaningless love, he disappeared from the noise, traded skyscrapers for sunsets, designer suits for flannel shirts, and his name for a new one. Ethan Gray. A simple man with a simple dream, to find someone who would love him for who he was, not what he had. The meeting. It happened on a breezy afternoon at Harbor Cafe, a small family-run diner near the docks. The doorbell chimed as Ethan entered, and behind the counter stood Grace Miller. She had tired eyes but a smile that refused to quit, the kind of smile that made the world a little softer. Her apron was worn, her hands busy pouring coffee for locals, yet she carried herself with quiet grace. "Table for one?" she asked warmly. Ethan nodded. "Yeah, just coffee, please." He watched as she moved, efficient, kind, always polite even when the crowd grew noisy. She laughed with an elderly couple, comforted a crying toddler, and later, when the rush slowed, stepped outside to sweep the porch. A sudden gust caught the window pane loose, the hinge snapping. "Oh no," she gasped, steadying it. "Here, let me," Ethan said, stepping forward. He held it carefully, his carpenter's instinct kicking in. "It's just the frame, I can fix it." "You don't have to," she protested. "It'll take 5 minutes." He smiled. "Besides, I like helping." And just like that, a small crack in glass became the first stitch in their story. The growing bond. In the weeks that followed, Ethan became a regular. Morning coffee turned into conversations, small talk into shared laughter. Grace told him about her life, how her father had passed away when she was 16, how she worked double shifts to pay rent, and how her mother's illness had drained their savings. Yet through it all, she never complained. "Money doesn't matter to me," she said one morning, wiping her hands on her apron. "I just want a man who stays, someone who doesn't run when life gets hard." Ethan's heart tightened. He smiled faintly, but inside, guilt burned. Would she still say that? If she knew the man she was talking to was sitting on a fortune worth billions? He kept his secret buried, afraid truth would scare away the one woman who saw him as a man, not a bank account. He listened when she spoke, helped her mother carry groceries, and repaired things around the house without being asked. He wasn't flashy, but his kindness was gold. And slowly, quietly, love began to bloom, not from gifts or promises, but from presence. The cracks appear, but love, even pure, isn't free from struggle. One night, as rain drummed on the cottage roof, Ethan found Grace sitting outside the cafe's back door, her shoulders shaking. "Grace?" he asked gently. "What's wrong?" She tried to smile, wiping her eyes. "It's nothing." But the papers in her hand told the truth. Medical bills, overdue notices, a red stamp that screamed final warning. "My mom's medicine. They raised the price again," she whispered. "I work every hour they give me, but it's never enough. And the landlord says he can't wait much longer." Ethan's heart broke. He wanted to tell her, "I could fix this. One call and your worries would disappear forever." But would she still love him then? This is the heartbreaking story of the secret billionaire. Ethan, a 32-year-old secret billionaire, lives as a poor man. He's kind-hearted and always ready to help those in need. But he has a dilemma. He can't reveal his true identity, or else his evil twin brother will steal all his money and leave him penniless.
One day he meets a beautiful 28-year-old woman named Grace who works at a local cafe. Despite her young age, Grace is very dignified and hardworking. She's saving up money to buy expensive medicine for her sick mother. When Ethan learns about this, he wants to help her. But when he offers her $3,000 anonymously, she refuses it, insisting that she doesn't want charity and that she can do without it.
Touched by her strong will and determination, Ethan decides to marry her. They have a simple wedding ceremony at the small chapel in Maple Bay. They exchange rings that they just borrow from a friend, and they promise to love each other forever. More importantly, they vow to love each other for who they are and not for what they have. After the wedding, they move into a small cottage near the lake. Although it has a leaky roof, it's perfect for them. Grace continues working at the cafe while taking care of her sick mother. Ethan, being a former Special Forces soldier, quickly fixes the house and provides for his family. Although he still lives like a poor man, secretly he is a multi-billionaire. While everyone thinks he's poor, they see him driving around in an old pickup truck and wearing cheap clothes. Only Grace knows about his secret. One day she finds an expensive watch in his car, and he tells her the heartbreaking reason behind his disguise. She understands and supports him, but she also worries about their future. As time goes by, Ethan becomes increasingly torn between his love for Grace and his need to protect his identity. He continues living a double life, appearing poor in public while secretly being a billionaire. Grace, on the other hand, grows more and more frustrated with the situation. She loves Ethan, but she doesn't want to live a life of lies. She feels trapped and starts resenting Ethan for his deception. One day, Grace sits down with Ethan and tells him that she can't take it anymore. She vows never to accept charity from him again, even if it means going back to living in poverty. She loves him too much to live like that, so she asks him to choose between her and his secret. Ethan is devastated, but he knows she's right. He has to come clean about his true identity. However, before he can do so, a mysterious figure appears and threatens to expose Ethan's secret unless he gives him $1 million. This person knows everything about Ethan's life, including his relationship with Grace. Now Ethan must decide whether to reveal his secret and lose everything, or protect his identity and risk losing Grace. What will he choose? Will he tell her the truth, or keep living a life of lies? What do you think he should do? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on new stories. See you next time. Bills gathered like storm clouds. Grace's mother's medicines grew costly. Some days the fridge held little more than milk and hope. Still, Grace never complained. When Ethan apologized for not giving her the life she deserved, she only smiled. "You give me peace, Ethan. That's something money can't buy." Yet every word of gratitude cut deeper, because Ethan knew, with one signature, he could erase their struggles. But the test wasn't over. He had to know if love could survive without fortune. One afternoon at the cafe, a sleek black car stopped outside. From it stepped Ryan Blake, tall, polished, confident, the owner of a chain of hotels across Connecticut. He noticed Grace instantly. "You have a rare kindness," he said with a charming smile. "You shouldn't be serving tables, not you belong somewhere brighter." Grace laughed softly. "I belong where I'm needed." Over the next few weeks, Ryan returned often, ordering coffee he barely touched, leaving generous tips Grace always returned. "I don't want charity, Mr. Blake," she said politely. He leaned forward one evening, eyes searching hers. "It's not charity, Grace. You deserve better. A comfortable home, a future free from struggle. I could give you that." Her smile faded, but her voice stayed gentle. "Better isn't gold, Ryan. Better is a man who keeps his word." Ryan's expression hardened. "You think love can fill a fridge? Pay hospital bills?" "Maybe not," she said quietly. "But love gives me strength to face what money can't." He sighed. "You're loyal. To a fault." When Ethan heard whispers of Ryan's visits, jealousy burned in his chest. Not from fear of losing her, but from guilt. He saw her turning down everything he secretly had, proving her love while he hid the truth. That night he lay awake beside her, tears pooling in silence. She deserved the world, and he was pretending not to have it. Days later, while tidying the cottage, Grace found an old phone tucked in Ethan's drawer. Sleek, expensive, unlike anything they owned. Curious, she pressed the button. The screen lit up. A message flashed. Board meeting postponed. Investors await your response, Mr. Cole. Her hands froze. Cole. Her heart pounded. She waited until Ethan returned that evening, tired and dusty from work. Ethan, she said softly, showing the phone. Who are you really? For a heartbeat, the world stopped. Ethan's face drained, words tangled on his tongue. It's just an old job, he stammered. I used to do some office work before carpentry. Grace frowned. Board meetings? Investors? That's not carpentry, Ethan. He reached for her hand. Please, Grace, and trust me. It's nothing now. What matters is us. Her eyes searched his face. She wanted to believe him. And she did. Mostly. But a seed of doubt had been planted. Later, as she sat by her mother's bedside, she whispered, Mom, do you think love can survive secrets? Her mother smiled faintly. If love is true, secrets will reveal themselves when hearts are ready. Grace nodded, holding her mother's frail hand, unaware how soon those words would come true. Winter crept over Maple Bay with cruel stillness. The days grew shorter, the bills heavier, and Grace's mother weaker. One cold morning, Grace awoke to silence. Her mother's eyes were closed, her hands folded peacefully. The world fell apart. Ethan held her as she cried for love lost, for years of struggle, for dreams that never came true. But grief doesn't pay for funerals. The hospital called, the landlord knocked, and life, merciless as ever, demanded payment. Grace sold her mother's belongings, took extra shifts, skipped meals. Ryan appeared again, suit sharp, eyes soft with pity. You don't have to suffer like this, Grace. Let me help. A home, a job, anything you need. Her voice trembled, but she stood tall. Thank you, Ryan, but my heart already has a home, and it's not for sale. He sighed, defeated, watching her walk away. Her dignity, her only wealth. That night, Ethan found her sitting on the floor beside her mother's photo, tears streaming silently. He knelt beside her, wrapping his arms around her. I'm so sorry, he whispered. If I could take away your pain, I would. She shook her head. You already do, Ethan, just by staying. But when she fell asleep, clutching her mother's scarf, Ethan turned away, tears burning down his face. She had turned down comfort, wealth, and rescue, all for a poor man's promise. Her loyalty was unshakable, her love pure, yet his biggest lie still stood between them, a wall made of gold and silence. Looking at her sleeping form, he whispered into the darkness, You've passed every test, Grace. Now it's me who's failing, because I'm too afraid to tell you who I really am. As the wind howled outside, Ethan knew the truth could set them free, or shatter everything they had built, and in that fragile silence, the test of love reached its breaking point. The morning began like any other. Soft sunlight over Maple Bay, seagulls gliding over the shore, the scent of ocean salt in the breeze. Grace brewed coffee in their small kitchen, humming quietly to herself. For the first time in weeks, she felt a fragile peace. Though her mother was gone, she had Ethan, steady, gentle, devoted. But peace is fragile, and truth waits for no one. As she flipped through the morning paper, her eyes froze on the front page. Headline: Billionaire tech mogul Ethan Cole spotted in Maple Bay, mystery behind his disappearance. A photograph stared back. Her Ethan, smiling at a charity event years ago, dressed in a suit worth more than their home. Her heart stopped. The coffee mug slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. She read again, and again. Ethan Cole. Not Ethan Gray, not a carpenter, a billionaire, a man who had built an empire, and built his life with her on a lie. The walls of their cottage felt smaller. colder. Every shared laugh, every promise, every tear replayed in her mind, all now stained by deception. When Ethan returned that evening, covered in sawdust, carrying groceries in paper bags, he found Grace sitting on the couch, newspaper trembling in her hands. She didn't speak at first. She just looked at him, eyes filled with hurt so deep it cut through silence like glass. "Grace?" Ethan whispered, stepping closer. "What's wrong?" Her voice broke. "Who are you?" Ethan froze. His gaze dropped to the newspaper. The color drained from his face. "Grace, I was going to tell you." She stood, shaking. "When? After how many lies? After how many nights you watched me break thinking we were poor when you had everything?" Ethan tried to reach her hand, but she stepped back, tears burning her cheeks. "You didn't test my love, Ethan. You broke my trust." The words pierced deeper than any blade. Ethan swallowed hard. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I've been surrounded by people who wanted my money, not my heart. I needed to know if someone could love me for who I am." Her voice rose, trembling with pain. "And you found me. You found a woman who chose love over gold, who buried her mother in borrowed clothes, who turned down every offer of help. And you watched me suffer just to feel safe." Ethan's eyes glistened. "I was afraid that if you knew the truth, you'd see me differently." Grace's tears fell freely now. "I don't care that you're rich, Ethan. I care that you lied. You didn't need to test love. You needed to trust it." Silence filled the room. Heavy. Final. Grace walked past him, gathering her mother's scarf, her coat, her wedding ring. He tried to stop her. "Please, Grace, don't go. Don't let my fear destroy what we built." She turned, eyes red but resolute. "What we built was love. What you built was a lie." And with that, she left. The door closed softly behind her, and with it, Ethan's heart broke. Grace returned to the city, to a small apartment near the hospital where she once worked part-time. The noise of traffic drowned the silence of her grief, but loneliness echoed louder. Everywhere she went, she saw his face, in the couples holding hands at cafes, in the reflection of store windows, in dreams she couldn't escape. At night, she sat by the window clutching her mother's photo, whispering, "Was I a fool, Mom? Or just a woman who believed too much?" Yet despite the betrayal, her heart refused to hate him. Because lies may wound, but love leaves scars that never fade. Back in Maple Bay, Ethan sat in their empty cottage, staring at the quiet rooms that once echoed with laughter. He had everything money could buy, yet nothing he truly wanted. For days, he wandered the shore, hands in pockets, thinking of the woman who had chosen love over luxury, the woman he had tested and lost. Finally, one evening, he packed a folder with documents, property deeds, bank transfers, savings. He drove to the city, to Grace's door. When she opened it, surprise flickered in her eyes, followed by guarded distance. "I'm not here to ask you back," Ethan said softly. "I came to give you what's yours." He handed her the folder. She frowned. "What is this?" "The cottage, the savings, everything we shared. I'm leaving Maple Bay. You don't owe me anything." Her voice trembled. "Why?" "Because love isn't a contract. I broke the one thing that mattered. Trust. This is my way of making peace." He looked into her eyes one last time. "You owe me nothing, Grace. You owe only your heart what it deserves." Then he turned and walked away. No plea, no promise, no hope of return. Grace watched him disappear into the rain, her heart splitting between anger and the haunting truth. She still loved him. Nights turned into weeks. Grace tried to move on, but every act of kindness reminded her of Ethan. The way he fixed things quietly, the way he smiled when she laughed, the way he looked at her not as a poor woman but as a queen of his world. Yet the wound of betrayal lingered. Could love survive when trust had fallen? One evening, as she sat on a park bench watching the sunset, she whispered, "Maybe he didn't fail love. Maybe he just failed to believe in it." And in that whisper, a question remained. Would forgiveness be weakness? Or the final proof of love? The seasons had changed in Maple Bay. The crisp air of autumn carried whispers of closure, of endings that make way for new beginnings. Months had passed since Grace walked away from the man she once loved, the man who had hidden his name, but never his heart. She had built a quiet life again, working at a community clinic, volunteering at shelters, trying to fill the empty corners of her soul with purpose. But some nights, when the city lights flickered against her window, she would still think of Ethan. Not the billionaire, but the man who fixed broken windows, made her coffee just the way she liked, and watched sunsets as though they were promises. She missed his silence, his steadiness, his love. But she could not forget the lie that fractured it all. Until one day, while organizing charity donations at the clinic, Grace noticed a familiar name printed on a sponsorship letter. The Eleanor Miller Foundation. Her mother's name. She blinked, stunned. The donation was massive. Funding for medical care, scholarships, and shelters. And at the bottom, signed in delicate handwriting, Ethan Cole. Her heart pounded. She searched online, and there it was. Articles, photos, interviews. Ethan had launched a foundation months ago, dedicating it to her mother, honoring her kindness, her sacrifice, her love. Grace covered her mouth as tears spilled. He hadn't vanished into his wealth. He had turned his guilt into good. For her mother, for the world. For the first time since she'd left, she didn't feel betrayed. She felt understood. That night, rain fell softly over Maple Bay. The same rain that once witnessed their heartbreak. Grace drove through the quiet streets to the old cottage by the shore. Light flickered from inside. She stepped out trembling, her umbrella shielding little more than her racing heart. When Ethan opened the door, he looked older, not in years but in weight. The kind carried by men who have lost something irreplaceable. Yet his eyes, when they met hers, still held the same gentleness. Grace, he breathed, as if saying her name for the first time again. She hesitated, then stepped in. The cottage looked almost the same, but framed photos lined the mantel now. Her mother's smile, children from shelters, the foundation's logo. Her voice quivered. You named it after her, my mom. He nodded slowly. She gave you everything when she had nothing. I wanted the world to remember her. To remember love that asks for nothing back. Grace's eyes filled. You didn't have to do this. I did, Ethan whispered, because I couldn't undo the hurt I caused you. But I could build something honest, in her name, in yours. For a moment, silence, except the rain tapping gently on the roof. Then she spoke softly. You never wanted to hurt me. You wanted to find truth. Ethan gave a faint, broken smile. And I found it. In you. She stepped closer, tears glistening like raindrops on her cheeks. I was angry, Ethan. Not because you were rich, but because you didn't trust my heart. You wanted proof, but love isn't a test. I know, he whispered. I thought I was protecting myself, but in doing that, I hurt the only person who was real. She reached for his hand. And now, he opened his palm. Resting inside was a simple gold ring. No diamonds, no flash, just a band of promise. Now, he said softly, I don't want a wife who passes a test. I want a partner who walks beside me. In truth, her tears fell freely as she nodded. Then let's walk together. No secrets, no tests. And there, in that small cottage where their story began, they embraced. Tears mixing with rain, forgiveness washing away the past. Months later, Maple Bay was alive with hope again. The Eleanor Miller Foundation opened its first children's health center. Grace stood beside Ethan not as a symbol of wealth, but as a woman of strength. Co-founder, leader, and heart of the mission. Reporters asked her, Do you believe in second chances? Grace smiled gently. I believe in honest ones. Ethan spoke next, his gaze steady on her. Love isn't proven by what we give, but by what we're willing to become. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful garden. And in this garden, two people, Ethan and Grace, were about to cut the ribbon of a new fountain. Their hands intertwined. They had rebuilt their lives and their love from the ashes of deceit. As they looked into each other's eyes, Grace thought about how they had lost so much trying to test their love instead of just trusting it. They had been so close to losing everything when Ethan's past had come back to haunt him. But through it all, their love had become stronger. She realized that she loved him not just because of who he was, but also because of who he was becoming. Ethan knew that he had hurt Grace deeply, but every day he showed her how much he had changed. He had rebuilt her trust with small gestures, with words of affirmation and with actions that spoke louder than words. He had shown her that he was worthy of her love. As the ribbon fell, a gasp echoed through the garden. For in that moment, Grace saw not just the beauty of the fountain, but the beauty of their love. A love that had been tested and had proven itself stronger than ever before. They stood there for a long time, lost in the moment, until Ethan finally broke the silence. "We lost a lot, didn't we?" he said, his voice filled with regret. Grace looked up at him, her eyes shining with tears. "Yes, we did," she whispered. "But we gained something greater." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "Faith," she said softly. "We gained faith in each other. And isn't that what love is all about? Faith, trust, belief in something that is unseen, yet deeply felt within our souls." As they stood there talking, the sun began its slow descent towards the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson. Hand in hand, they walked along the beach, the soft sand cradling their feet as they strolled. In the distance, the waves crashed gently, their rhythmic roar a soothing melody to their ears. The salty breeze tousled Grace's hair, carrying with it the scent of the sea and the promise of new beginnings. Looking out at the vast expanse of the ocean, Ethan turned to Grace, his heart overflowing with love and gratitude. "You know," he said, his voice husky with emotion, "I never thought I could be this happy after all that has happened. You bring me joy every day, Grace. You are my sunshine after the rain." Grace's eyes met his, and in that moment they both knew that their love story was far from over. It had just begun. For love, true love, needs no test, only trust. Lies may shatter the heart into pieces, but the truth will rebuild it, stronger and more beautiful than before.